Hello everyone, it's Brian here in Toronto. Today I'm doing a contest entry for Gordon. His channel is I Dig Vinyl, which I will put a link to below. A couple of weeks ago I was watching his channel and he posted a video which was called Sounds of Scotland in honor of St. Andrew's Day, and he talked about 9 different Scottish acts. And so as it turns out, that actually is his announcement of his contest for his channel. And he just asks us to show some Scottish music, and then the winner will get some sort of Scottish confectionery, which is fascinating. By the way, I feel like I can enter this contest because my father was born in Glasgow, and I've been to Scotland. So I think that's fair enough. So let's get on with this. I'm going to start with a band who have kind of maybe an unexpected name for a Scottish group, because they're called Berlin Blondes, as you will see here. Self-titled Berlin Blondes came out in 1980. The band was formed in 1978 in Glasgow, and they did one record, and then I guess they decided not to make any more records. 3 of the 4 members of this band continued on in music somehow. One of the people on this record, and I can't remember what role he had on the record, became a restaurateur in Glasgow, which I find interesting because for me, that would be the last job on earth I'd want to do. However, he seems to be doing well. This is the back of the record. So they're a new wave synth pop band out of Glasgow. They had some success on the live circuit, I think. They opened for Simple Minds. I'm not sure how many times. They take their influences from people like Roxy Music, Kraftwerk. And in fact, in concert, they would perform The Model by Kraftwerk. And also from the Berlin period of David Bowie, which is maybe where they got the Berlin part from. I'm not sure. I do love this album cover. I think it's really cool, futuristic in a way. But only one album, and that was it. I didn't know this band way back in 1980. In fact, I was in a record store, I guess whenever I show this, and a recent finds video was maybe a couple of years ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I remember seeing it and not recognizing it, and the sticker on the label said something like New Wave from 1980, so I was intrigued, looked it up, and was surprised I had never heard of it before, but I think it's a pretty good record. Plain White Sleeve, which I should probably change. But the other thing I found interesting about this record is that there's this text here, some of which I'm sure you've seen before, like the copyright notice and how to care for your records. But in the middle here, there is a very interesting paragraph about if you're interested in buying someone a record but don't know what to get, you can buy them a record token, which is redeemable at over 5,000 different record shops. I have never heard of this before. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. If you've ever heard of that, I'd be curious because it's not something I've ever seen before. But I will show you the label on here, EMI label. Anyway, interesting band. I think this is a really good record, and part of me is kind of feeling like I missed out because I didn't know who they were back then. Okay, second Scottish record. This guy was born in Paisley, I think, and I've mentioned this guy before. Endlessly fascinating individual. His name on the record is Momus. That's not his real name. His real name is Nicholas or Nick Curry. Momus apparently is the Greek god of mockery. So you can tell there's sort of an intellectual bent to his music. This is Tender Pervert, which kind of turns that intellectual thing on its head, maybe. This came out in 1988, his 3rd record. Really, it's hard for me even to describe this guy because his music is nominally synth pop, at least at the time. He's released something like 35 records to almost no commercial interest, no fanfare. They just kind of drop and no one knows about them. He is an art blogger. He moved to Japan. He started writing novels about 15 years ago. Very intriguing. There's a bit of irony in his lyrics. Let me give you a couple of titles of songs. I Was a Maoist Intellectual. Hilarious. We've got The Complete History of Sexual Jealousy, parts 17 to 24. The Angels Are Voyeurs. There's a song called The Homosexual, which he wrote apparently in response to some homophobia that arose when the AIDS crisis emerged. So, fascinating guy. If you see recent photos of him, you will see him wearing an eye patch because he had an issue with his eye and he can't see out of that eye properly. So he does wear an eye patch from time to time. But he's also been credited as being an early influence on the development of Britpop, which might seem interesting because no one really knows about him. Well, some people know about him. So he used to write for Wired, if I forgot to say that. I'll put this out of here. There we go. So endlessly interesting, enigmatic, fascinating with really intriguing music. He has sort of a cult following, I would say. And I found this in a thrift shop, which stunned me because when I go to regular record stores, you never see his records. In fact, the entire time I've been buying records since a teenager, I'm not always looking, of course, but I'd never seen a single record from Mamas in a store ever. By the way, and I've mentioned this in a different video, that thing he's doing that makes his fingers look like horns, that was borrowed by Primal Scream on their album More Light. If you know that record, they're doing that. They borrowed it from Mamas. That's where that comes from, in case you're a Primal Scream fan. So, because I mentioned Primal Scream, let's talk about this one. A band that was formed in Glasgow. This is Give Out But Don't Give Up, the original Memphis recordings. This is a deluxe edition. Is it a reissue? Kind of a reissue from 2021, in which they present the original mixes of the songs that appeared on Give Out But Don't Give Up. So they were remixed. I can't remember the whole story, but the producer or something, whatever, didn't like the original mixes. They weren't strong enough or dynamic enough or whatever, so they redid them all. And then someone found these in a box in a closet somewhere. So there's the original album, and then the next two records have things like, I guess, songs that were never used, plus we have monitor mixes of things, early rehearsal jams, improvised song jam, ardent outtakes, etc., different vocals, sitar version. So if you like that album, this is a really interesting thing to dive into, and it's, as I say, on 3 records. By the way, this is 897. I don't know how many are in the edition, the limited edition. Folds out like this. And as I mentioned, 3 records. I will pull one of them out so you can have a look. It comes with this booklet. So the original album came out in 1994. This is, as I mentioned, the 2021 version. I guess it sounds a little more 70s than the finally released version, the actual album. But there we go. Primal Scream. Next is a guy I kind of forgot was born in Glasgow, and that is David Byrne of the Talking Heads, who was born in Dumbarton. I had no idea. This came out in 1981, so right in the heart of the Talking Heads, when Talking Heads were a real thing. And this is a record I remember buying and sort of just threw on the shelf and never really paid much attention to. But this is fantastic. This, especially if you like Brian Eno, because Brian Eno's all over this record. So is Adrian Belew of King Crimson, formerly of King Crimson. I think this is really interesting. If you like the sort of Brian Eno guitar or bass guitar, synthy, if you like Eno's production style, you might be interested in this record. It's did I tell you the title of it? Songs from the Broadway production of The Catherine Wheel, choreographed and directed by Twyla Tharp. By the way, I do have the expanded CD version as well, which has 23 tracks, 72 minutes as opposed to however many are on here. I can't remember. So now here's an interesting David Byrne piece of trivia, which you may or may not know, is that from ages 2 to 8 or 9, David Byrne lived in Hamilton, Ontario. And if you've read his book about bicycling, I think he mentions that. And the theory is that the references to a shotgun shack is a reference to the house he lived in Hamilton, in that Talking Heads song. So there we go. Really great record, I have to say. Something I didn't listen to enough way back when. And then finally, a record that was a piece of VCLT from the guy behind Off the Beaten Tracks and My Vinyl Attic. He gave me a copy of this Head Boys record, and when he gave it to me, I didn't think I knew anything about them, but they're kind of like a new wave Scottish band who were formed in Edinburgh. And when I played it, of course, the first track on side 1, The Shapes of Things to Come, was a massive kind of hit here, at least in some radio stations. I heard this many, many times, and I was like, wow, that really takes me back. I can't believe I had forgotten about that track, and I can't believe I didn't know who sang it. Unfortunately, they didn't really get the success I think they deserved. This record got some notoriety, and then I really don't know what happened to them after this. But I recommend at least listening to that track, The Shapes of Things to Come. There's the record for that. So that, I don't know how far up the charts that climbed. I maybe forgot to say this came out in 1979, but really interesting. So not a bad record at all. So thanks for watching, and of course, check out Gordon's channel. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these responses to this contest. I've seen some, but I'm waiting especially for MGK Boston, because I think we all need to see the Susan Boyle CD. So I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks for watching.